What is going on out there, peeps? Alrighty. Man, there's a lot of things happening in Iraq right now, and I can't help but think that they're definitely preparing for this meeting that's getting ready to take place here in about a couple of weeks. All right, so let's get into what's going on. Anyways, a quick reminder, you guys, I have Pimpy's Investment Chat. It's the same name as the YouTube channel. I will leave a link in the description. Come join us over there. We talk about all kinds of different investment things from gold, silver, cryptocurrencies, as well as foreign currency investments. All right, and for you people who like conspiracy stuff, there is a second group called The Hidden Things Are in Front of Your Eyes. There will be a link for that to come join as well. Both are free to join. Okay, so let's get into this. I like this first article because it just gets right to it. The document, the draft domestic and foreign borrowing law to finance the fiscal deficit of 2020. You ready? Here it is. There it is. Can you guys read that? Me neither. So it's a quick article. Okay, governmental sources. Al-Kadhimi decides the name of the candidates for the vacant ministry, and Parliament was notified of that. Okay, so look, you're going to see in these articles that they seem to be trying to hurry up and get their ducks in a row before this meeting. All right, the advisor of the president of the parliament confirmed that Prime Minister Al-Kadhimi has decided the names of the candidates for the vacant ministries, while he's indicated the parliament was notified of that. In a statement to Al-Masala, that the parliament was notified that the prime minister had completed the names of the candidate for the vacant ministry and that he might reach the curricula vintage of the 7 bags during the next 2 days. So look, they're getting ready to get these people in there, get them names voted on, and get them into position, because the week after that, I believe, is going to be the meeting with the U.S., but we will see because there's an article about it. The House of Representatives votes on the budget resolution. So the House of Representatives voted on a budget resolution, and the media department of the council stated Parliament votes on the form of the following decision. It was a quick decision, as you can see. The government should expedite sending a federal budget bill for the year 2020 and at the latest by 6:30. So remember, they voted on a bi-yearly budget this year, so that's for the budget, the second half of this year is what that is. Parliament completes the first reading of the domestic and foreign borrowing bill to finance fiscal deficit of 2020. I like these articles. They're straight to the point. The House of Representatives finished the first reading of the draft of the domestic and external borrowing law to finance the fiscal deficit for the year 2020 during this session, now held according to what the media department stated to the council. Okay, so it looks like they're trying to pass some laws, some much-needed laws. The budget is what we see they're trying to get in there, get taken care of. The rest of the cabinet, get it filled ahead of time. So Halabasi directs the General Secretary of the Council to address the Secretary of the Council of the Ministers for the purpose of sending the budget law. All right, so hopefully what they'll do is they'll vote on the budget at the same time they're voting in the cabinet members. That would be really nice to get them both out of the way and ready to start kicking in as soon as June is over. Parliament Speaker Halabasi directed a letter to the General Secretary of the Council of Ministries for the purpose of sending the budget law. A brief statement to the media department of the House of Representatives stated that Halabasi directed the General Secretary of the Council to address the General Secretary of the Council of Ministries for the purpose of sending the budget law for 2020. So they have a lot of general secretariats of the general secretariats of the ministries of the ministries of. That's crazy. I wonder why they go crazy when they're over there. Okay, so Parliament session chaired by Halabasi begins. We know that. We just talked about that. I like these articles. Quick and to the point. Speaker Halabasi opened Wednesday Parliament with 184 deputies there. Good. So here we go. Look what's coming up. Pompeo will supervise the June and Kurdistan negotiations in which she will participate. I wouldn't call Pompeo a she. Members of Parliament Foreign Committee Talabani revealed on Wednesday the reason for launching strategic negotiations between America and Iraq, indicating that the upcoming talks will take place under the direct supervision of U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo and with the participation of Kurdistan. Talabani said in a televised statement followed by that the proposal to define bilateral relations between the United States of America and Iraq came after the attack at the Baghdad airport and the decision of the Iraqi parliament according to the American forces from Iraq. So they voted, is what they did, to vote them out of the country altogether. But this is no big deal. We already knew that. Look, Trump doesn't want these never-ending wars, and he wants to pull out of these countries. So not surprising. The U.S.-Iraq negotiation will discuss Iraq's commercial relations with Iran, particularly in the energy field, as well as define the relationship between Baghdad and Washington in the field of security, trade, and the American presence in Iraq. Talabani continued, it was the U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo who proposed these talks, and he will personally supervise them, noting that the Kurdistan region will participate in the negotiations as they are faithful and determine the nation's security of the whole of Iraq. Okay, so we know what's going on there. There's a lot of tensions. Well, they seem to be simmered down big time between Iran and the United States, and they were taking their tension out in Iraq. And so this didn't work out very good for the Iraqi people who were trying to get back on their feet and be stable. So you can't sit there and lecture the Iraqi people on how they need to get stable while you're in there causing commotion. So I get it. That makes sense. Again, I like this because this is just Iraq putting on their big boy chonies, kicking off those training wheels, and they're ready to go solo. All right, so Al-Fat reveals his participation in a strategic dialogue and an irreversible condition. Okay, so here we go. Al-Fat Alliance revealed on Wednesday his participation in a forthcoming strategic dialogue between Baghdad and Washington, which will chart the future of relations between the two countries. The leader of the coalition told the news the most important condition that we put before the government, Al-Qademi, is the implementation and the decision of the Iraq parliament, which is to remove all foreign forces from Iraq. So when they say remove all, what does that mean? I mean, what about the Iranian-backed politicians? I wonder if that is included. Very curious how this is going to work out. He stressed by saying the application of these conditions is irreversible. On January 5th, the Iraqi parliament voted on a resolution demanding that Baghdad work to remove foreign forces from the country. Yeah, I agree that, they need to start defending themselves. They need to start taking control of their own country. The question is whether or not they're strategically ready to do that, especially with groups like ISIS sitting outside in the fray, ready to jump in at any time. The decision came 2 days after Washington assassinated the commander of Iranian forces, Soleimani, and the leader of the Iraqi Popular Mobilization, Mahdi Mohandas, with an airstrike near Baghdad airport. I told you guys, under the Trump administration, it is not a good time to be a terrorist leader. If you keep messing around with us, you keep messing around with Trump, you will wake up dead one morning. All right. So we are with the dialogue, which is expected on June 10th with the American side and with the involvement of all political parties in the dialogue, provided that this is on the basis of preserving the sovereignty of Iraq and implementing the parliament's decision. So see, again, the sovereignty, you can't tell Iraq to work on their sovereignty and then, not let them do that. So this is good. But I'm curious to see how this negotiation is going to go out, because Iraq's insisting on being able to work with and trade with Iran. We know Iran has sanctions on them right now. I'm not so sure that they're going to be very forgiven in any exemptions, because I think we're pretty close to achieving what Trump wants over there. I'm anticipating Trump getting reelected, but it takes more than that. He's going to have to also be reelected, in addition to control the Senate and the House to get anything accomplished. You can see what's happening here in the United States when you just control one level of government, or two levels and not the third. All right. So yeah, if we want to get anything accomplished instead of investigations, we're going to need to vote them all in so that we can make sure that this Iran nuclear deal is actually going to happen. Okay. So this article just goes on to talk about, look, it's real simple. The Kurdistan people want people to leave Iraq alone and let them start to rebuild. And I like this idea. There's a good reason for that. That's because they need to. How are you going to be sovereign if you can't get in there? And what we need to do is let Iraq stand alone and see how they do. So it's like, the first time you take your kid out to ride a bike and you do take off the training wheels and you're holding onto the seat and they're pedaling. Eventually, you're going to have to let them go to see how they do. So right now, we got our hand on the seat of Iraq. We are pushing them. They are pedaling. It is time to let go of the seat to see how they ride. All right, the commander of the Iranian Quad Forces, Khani, arrived in Baghdad today, Wednesday, with the Iranian government delegation that includes Energy Minister, I'm not even going to try to pronounce that, told a source politician familiar with the agency, Twilight News, that Khan entered the capital of Baghdad in an official after receives payments on a visa from the Foreign Affairs of Iraq within the delegations. Okay, none of that made sense to me. So we know what they want. We know that this guy wants Iran out of Baghdad. So let's see. I'm curious to see how this guy does. We also know he's an ISIS killer. So you remember, this is a guy that Mahdi all of a sudden, I think, put behind the desk, and then, oh, nope, that's not the same guy. My bad. I know who this is. This is a guy from Iran. He took over for Soleimani. Let me make a correction live on air here. This is the guy that took over for Soleimani. So again, you definitely don't want to be a leader of any kind of terrorist groups. And I know a lot of people are saying they're not. But anyways, nonetheless, this is the guy that's the leader of the Iranian Quad Forces. All right, so he must be going over there to talk to Baghdad about what. This is going to be interesting. He added that the aim of the visit is to unify positions towards the forthcoming strategic dialogue between Baghdad and Washington. I'm sure what Iran definitely wants is America out of Iraq so that Iran could try to go in there and put the little grubby hands into the country. But here's the thing. These two have been brothers in nations for a long time. I don't care what kind of tensions there are ever between Iraq and Iran. They're like two big brothers. Eventually, they'll get over it and they'll just go about business as usual. Okay, so we know that the Kurdistan people want the American forces. Well, not just them, but don't forget, we got the coalition over there as well. So they want the forces out of Iraq. I couldn't agree more, but here's the thing. Everybody needs to leave Iraq and leave them alone, let them start to rebuild. And that includes Iran as well. Because the more you keep poking around in Iraq, the more you grab the attentions of the United States as well as their foreign coalitions. Okay, so they're going over there to talk about what they're expecting. Okay, so we will see. Washington and Baghdad will also discuss reaching an agreement on the fate of the U.S. forces as Iran presses its alliance in Iraq to drive U.S. forces out of the country. Alongside the Washington-led coalition, U.S. forces have withdrawn from 6 of the 8 military bases since the killing of Soleimani and the engineer. The international coalition says this is part of the relocation and withdrawal from bases of a small number of soldiers. So it is a combination of things. Look, we pretty much took out one of the stronghold, or I should say not a stronghold, but the main kahuna over there who was really organizing all the proxy attacks. All right, so once he's been gone, once Soleimani was killed, we noticed that things have tempered that down just a little bit. All right, so you guys look at, we know Mike Pompeo in America is getting ready to go over there. There's going to be the United Nations. The IMF is, I've told, has been going over there. The United Nations has been there over with Halabasi now quite often. So we have the United Nations, the Kurdistan people. We have America is going to be there. Yeah, it's the same thing as the United States. My bad. Anyway, so the IMF, the United States, Iraq, and Kuwait, and Saudi, and Kurdistan. So that's a pretty big group of people. I'm curious to see what comes out of this meeting, and then where we go from there. So like you, many of us are expecting some big news. One of the ways that can help boost and get Iraq where we need them to be is a change in their rate. This would allow them to start doing their reconstruction. All right, so the laws are being passed this week. The cabinet members are going to be filled. We should be ready to rock and roll by the time the meeting with Pompeo takes place. All right, you guys, it's looking good. So just have faith. All right, I'll catch you later.